Hello, my name is Elliot Zaifman, and today we are going to be talking about the researcher, professor, and doctor, Professor Mickey Keenan. Today we're going to start off by talking about who he is and what he does to begin with. So, Professor Keenan is a professor at the University of Ulster, and he is not only a professor there, but he's also a researcher and a very prominent and accomplished figure in applied behavioral analysis in general, where he has published multiple articles, journals, and even books. He is recognized for his work in the autism spectrum, specifically when it comes to parents of children who have been diagnosed with autism. His accomplishments range from running over 80 seminars, along with receiving multiple rewards, including the Making a Difference Reward by the BBC. And he is also the creator and founder of PETE, the Parents Education as Autism Therapists, where he has been helping parents of children diagnosed with autism better understand and prepare for their future. He is very research focused and has specialized in the field of the misuse and miscommunication of autism in multimedia. He also often discusses the roles of parents and professionals and society and the general public in general when it comes to the general knowledge of a person or a child living with ASD. For this presentation, I have decided to include 5 different articles that he was a part of. The first one is the one that stands out of the other ones. It is called None of the A's in ABA Stand for Autism, Dispelling the Myths. And then there are 4 others which are all more based towards the parents and the professional side of a child being diagnosed with autism and what to do in the future. Those are called Focus on Practice, Living with Children Diagnosed with Autism Spectrum Disorder. Then there is ABA-based programs for children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, parental and professional experiences at school and at home. The next one is Parent Education and Home-Based Behavior Analytic Intervention, an examination of parents' perceptions of outcome. And the last one is called The Experiences of Parents During Diagnosis and Forward Planning for Children with Autism Spectrum Disorder. Now, I've decided to use all of these because not only do most of them include the aspect of either a study or a questionnaire, which I thought was very interesting and the more accurate and scientific-based way of proving your hypothesis, as well as finding out more information about things you may not even know that you're looking for. He also uses the surveys and the questionnaires to gather information about general knowledge and about parents' needs in general. For example, the outstanding one, the first article that I was mentioning, is just a survey to the general public in Ireland and the UK asking about who even knows what ASD is, if they have anyone in their lives with ASD, and so forth. So that was very interesting to see because it was not only the use of multimedia, which he typically talks about in researches, or even parents or professionals with children diagnosed with autism disorder. And this one not only stood out to me because it was different, but also because it's interesting to see research done not only in the United States but outside of it, as well as seeing what the more general public knows versus just someone who is more personally involved in that person's life. This outstanding article also talks about the myths and is able to debunk many of the myths that are surrounding the principles of ABA in general, or autism, or the ASD spectrum in general. This was very interesting and a very unique and helpful article to read. Although it was only about 2 pages, it gave a lot about the history and the present of the information and the terms that we are currently using and misusing or misinterpreting and then spreading falsities onto the general public within multimedia and within our own research. There are also a few thought-provoking questions that if I were to interview Professor Mickey Keenan, these would be the 5 that I would ask. The first one would be, how do you come up with questionnaires in your studies? It is very hard and challenging for someone to even be able to come up with interview questions or questionnaire questions, and I was wondering if he had any sort of process for doing so and the accuracy of the responses or the questions being more towards one side or another. The next question is, what has gotten you interested in pursuing ABA? What was the catalyst of, I really want to make a career, make a life, make a difference for these people, for myself in applied behavioral analysis? The next one is, what is the most difficult part of being a professor? There's a lot of research involved. There's a lot of questions and unanswered responses and things like that. And I was wondering what the most difficult lesson you had to learn was, or what lesson you had to teach that was most difficult while you were a professor. The next one is, what is the most important lesson you've learned from writing your first article to now your most recent one? Mickey Keenan has been around for a while and publishing work for a while, and he has been doing research and teaching for a very long time as well. And from his first publication to now his most current one, what is the biggest lesson he's learned, or what is something that he can pass on to someone who is interested in doing more of this research or different kind of research, or even publishing an article themselves? The last one is, what is one myth about children with ASD that you have had to debunk multiple times? So not necessarily within a theoretical sense, but let's say somebody comes up to you on the street, or you have a student or a parent or a professional, anything like that, anyone like that, that just really everyone has the same question, or everybody has the same myth that they think is true, and what is your way of debunking said myth? Professor Keenan's work is very important because of many reasons, but first of all, he is a very highly respected and highly recognized person in the field of ABA. He has been invited to speak at more than dozens of addresses and almost 100 seminars. He also is a very knowledgeable person on multiple topics across varying fields of information. For example, he not only is researching and a professor for parents with children on the autism spectrum, but he also manages and runs webinars and seminars and gives addresses on bereavement, abuse, other schedules of reinforcement that do have to do with ABA, doing things that have to do with ABA on people and non-people, including animals and things like that. He is also a fellow of the British Psychological Society, and he even has published his own books before. He is also very influential when it comes to the world of both parents and media. His involvement has helped clarify and improve and bring light to a lot of misinformation and miscommunication, misuse of multimedia within our general public and nowadays society, and he has brought light to a lot of struggles and challenges that can come with facing a diagnosis of your child being on the autism spectrum and how to then best go about that situation. He also continues to support parents, being part and creator and founder of PETE. He also is advancing the understanding and bringing back the importance of the history of ABA within his research and within his debunking certain myths and providing correct and accurate and helpful and productive information for parents and other professionals as well. His work is also very important in our own classroom setting because he is a person that is trying to live in our times and our current phase of understanding the way we do and presenting information the way we do and receiving it the way we do, but also making sure to use that and balance it with not creating misinformation and having accurate enough information where you can pass that on to another person and have them be able to do something with it, especially within our classroom setting. It's very important. We have talked about making sure that terms are accurate. For example, using positive reinforcement doesn't mean you're necessarily going to like something. It can actually be a very negative thing, or a quote-unquote negative thing. It just means that you're adding something that is going to increase that behavior in the future. And so he talks a lot about that, the accuracy and the need to correctly perceive and receive and give terms, as well as creating change for a difficult world that does not necessarily understand or have room in society to understand quite yet, but is making that change because of people like Mickey Keenan.